Thanks for joining me for this lecture where we're going to discuss digital marketing. Now, digital marketing is a fairly new concept and is one that has been brought about by some of the advances in technology. And with it has given companies a lot of different tools to be able to reach consumers and understand them better, but has also produced some negative consequences in that now there are privacy implications, and I'm sure you've seen some of that in the media, most recently related to TikTok's US business and how the US federal government is, of course, wanting to find a US-based business suitor for that in order to prevent any possible data or US data being in the hands of the Chinese government. And so we're not going to talk about that in this video. That's a conversation for another time. But digital marketing is really something that is not only a extremely valuable tool, but obviously has some privacy implications and is very, very powerful, especially if in the wrong hands. So we're going to talk about some of the entry-level things with regards to digital marketing, starting with what it is, and then really how it differentiates from the more common forms of marketing that you're probably used to and that you typically study in an intro to marketing type class and have been taught for dozens and dozens of years. So let's start with what digital marketing is. Digital marketing is, in its essence, marketing, but it's through kind of different medium, if you will. So if you think about marketing as a whole, really a purpose of marketing is kind of communicating with customers. And so we're still doing that, right? Marketing is still about communicating with customers. Now, of course, we have to decide what the message is and what channels we're going to use and what general forms of, let's say, advertising we're going to use to reach consumers. But all marketing kind of shares that commonality in that the purpose of it is communicating with consumers in some way. How digital marketing separates itself from the more traditional forms of marketing is we're communicating with customers through digital media. And digital media really takes the form of everything from a device or something that connects to the internet. So think your computer, mobile devices, digital billboards, banner ads on websites, outdoor marketing, obviously social media, which is a very prominent thing. All of those factor into, or fall under rather, digital media. And so with digital marketing, we're using all of those channels to be able to reach consumers. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to provide you with a non-exhaustive list of some of the different examples or some of the different types of digital media that you might see. Again, this is not an exhaustive list, but enough for you to have a good understanding of what falls under digital media. And so we're looking at things like mobile phones. We're considering social media, which is a very powerful way and very popular way that many businesses interact with their consumers, right? Having a profile on Facebook or Instagram or another social media platform of some kind can include email marketing, can include SMS marketing, right? Marketing via text messages, can include Facebook Messenger marketing. So these are all forms of digital media. Again, not an exhaustive list, certainly encompasses more, but just kind of wrap your head around what is something that falls under digital media. So digital marketing is all about communicating through these devices and different tools. Again, and businesses can use, obviously, all of them collectively, or can choose to use one or the other, right? And as a small business, you're probably going to choose to invest in maybe a couple of platforms and really put your energy into that, where a bigger business might have a strategy for utilizing them all collectively for the purpose of communicating one single unified message. So now that you have a little bit of understanding of digital marketing and really kind of the different types of digital media, let's really talk about the value of digital marketing. And to do that, we've got to kind of compare it to the more traditional forms of marketing. And so when you think of the traditional forms of marketing, what I want you to think of, I'll make another list here, are things like television ads, say radio. We can even use billboards. I want you to think about these types of communication. So these are ones that you're probably familiar with, that we have some interaction with, usually at the very least weekly, sometimes daily. And when you think about these forms of media, they tend to be a little bit more expensive, at least kind of as a whole. And for many businesses that are at least starting, they're not really viable sources of marketing, right? You're not going to try to communicate through these typical forms of marketing. Now, there are other things that you can do, right? You can canvass neighborhoods and put flyers on people's doors and try to knock on doors to talk to people, but people really don't answer their doors anymore for the most part. So those things might not be as effective for you. But comparing these two, we're going to look at really why digital marketing has become so popular, and how, frankly, a lot of these social media companies have grown to the sizes they've been, really because of businesses trying to market to consumers. And ultimately, you want to market to the person who's going to purchase your product. And social media companies know too much about us, which makes them very, very valuable as far as helping businesses market. So let's look a little bit about some of the different characteristics between digital marketing and traditional marketing, things that make them so valuable. So one of the things that makes digital marketing so valuable is this concept called addressability. And addressability sounds really complicated, but really all addressability is getting at is that it's about helping the marketer identify a customer before they make a purchase. Now you might be asking, really, why is this so valuable? And let's first talk about kind of how it's done. It's a pretty simple process where actually a couple different ways that you can do it, but they generally involve installing what's called a tracking cookie. I know it sounds really, really cool, on somebody's computer when they go to your website. And that tracking cookie usually is good for a certain period of time, and you can clear them, obviously, and install safeguards if you don't want websites kind of tracking what you're doing and those sorts of things. But the way it generally works is then when you come back to that particular website, then the website kind of can associate some of your different interactions and kind of group them together, so it gets a better understanding of some of your shopping habits and some of your behaviors, and so it knows kind of what you're doing roughly, and that's really how, if you ever been on any e-commerce website, like Amazon is notorious for this. If you go on to Amazon and you're searching for something and then you leave and then go somewhere else and you're on a different website other than Amazon and you start seeing ads for things that you just looked at on Amazon, right, which is very, very creepy, that is kind of a tracking cookie. And so Amazon is using that information to then try to market to you and then show ads based upon where you go because you showed an interest in it. And if you search for something on their website, Amazon is making the assumption, rightfully so, that you had some kind of interest in it and you didn't make a purchase, and is going to try to maybe close that gap by reminding you of, hey, this is available and you can get it now and blah, blah, blah. So that's addressability. That's a very powerful thing because it gives businesses the ability to market to their customers and get them back to their site. In traditional marketing, it's really hard to do those sorts of things, right? If you think about like a television ad, for example, television ads are really good for just kind of creating broad awareness, but they generally don't work all that great for getting someone to do something right away, right? Because generally when you're consuming the ad, you're nowhere close to the ability to making a purchase, right? You got to get in the car, you got to drive somewhere, whatever the case is. But if you're actually on a website already, I mean, it's really easy to click over, and then with a couple of clicks, you're making a purchase, you're checking out, and then you're good to go. So addressability is a really powerful thing that differentiates digital marketing from the more traditional forms of marketing that we've talked about before. Another thing that is really, really important is this idea of accessibility. And accessibility really is just the ability for marketers to obtain digital information. And this is extremely important because in marketing, one of the core tenets of marketing is understanding your customer. If you understand your customer, if you have a comprehensive profile of who that person is, right? Age, demographics, psychographic information, behavioral information, right? You know, the things they buy, what they read, all of those things. That puts you at a distinct advantage for not only being able to create a product or service that resonates with that person, but it also gives you a distinct advantage when it comes to trying to reach that person later on, because you know the places they go for information. So I can make sure and have my information there so you see it. You know the podcasts that they listen to, so I can make sure and advertise during those podcasts. And so by having access to all this information, it gives those businesses a little bit of an advantage to be able to make sure that their messages are present at every stage along the way and encouraging whatever behavior it is that they're looking for. And so this is very, very important. And again, gives you access to more information, right? It's hard to tell. It's hard to get information from people that listen to, let's say, a radio advertisement, for example, because it's hard to track those sorts of things. And you can track how many people are listening during a period of time, but that really doesn't give me a whole lot of data, right? From a business standpoint, it's not very actionable. It's interesting and helpful in some ways, but it's certainly not the same as understanding the exact demographics of everybody who clicked on a particular link. Or who has purchased my product in the past or has searched for certain pieces of information. That becomes really, really powerful. Another key characteristic that separates digital marketing is what we call interactivity. And interactivity is really a kind of allowed because of the digital medium here. And so what interactivity means is that consumers or users, however you want to refer to them, consumers have the ability to express their views. And digital marketing really allows for direct communication, right? For better or for worse in some instances. So like never before, because we have these forms of digital media, it allows us to engage directly with brands, with celebrities, and with other people as well. And some of that is great, and some of that maybe not so much. But it gives us direct access. And so we now have the ability, because of digital marketing, if a business has an Instagram account, and we've used a product and we love it. I mean, we can communicate them. We can reply to their posts. We can vent our frustrations, which happens a lot as well. So again, it kind of goes both ways. But from a business standpoint, this kind of information is helpful because, again, it gives us direct access to consumers. So we can address concerns as they come up. We can communicate some of the things that we're doing. And while you could argue that that level of communication certainly has its downsides, and it does give brands and businesses and other entities more control kind of over how they're sort of portrayed in a way, and they get the ability to interact, which is really helpful. So like never before have we been able to actually reach a group of customers and communicate with them directly, because it really wasn't available before. But through digital marketing, it gives the ability to do that. Now, the issues, of course, and these are just a few of the different characteristics that separate digital marketing from other forms of marketing, but the implications, of course, are that of kind of privacy, right? Privacy becomes a very big kind of sticking point because businesses and social media companies specifically have access to so much data, and you could argue that we kind of freely give up some of that. But obviously, if it's in the possession of someone who is not doing something that is well-intentioned, and that can be very, very problematic. And so these tools, while from a business perspective, can be very helpful because they give us access to our customers. We can learn more about them, and then we can, of course, create products for them, all beneficial things. Access to the information, as we've seen also, can be potentially negative, and we can use that to influence certain behaviors and those sorts of things, which is a whole nother issue for a whole nother time that we're certainly not going to solve in this 10 to 15 minute video. But hopefully that gives you a little bit of understanding of digital marketing and kind of how it works. And then if you're looking to potentially incorporate that in your business, it can be very overwhelming because there's a lot of different tools. Really, the common theme is you want to use the tool that your consumer is using. And you can find information online on who uses certain things. And so from an advertising standpoint, right, there's email marketing, there's social media marketing, but then within that, there are different examples. And so, just as one, if you were to do, let's say, social media marketing, which is extremely common, and many businesses use this first because it's free. And then, of course, you can get into sort of the paid advertising realm. But you can choose, well, I'm going to go, should I advertise on LinkedIn, or should I go on Instagram, or should it be TikTok or Facebook, or whatever else there is. I'm sure there's a lot more. I don't necessarily enjoy social media all that much, but the one that you choose is going to be whichever your customer uses, right? Even if you necessarily don't like it all that much, but chances are you probably do. And so if you are catering to like business executives and you're selling a product, maybe it's like a software as a service type business, and you're trying to get in touch with executives, you're probably going to choose LinkedIn, right? Because people designate their actual like job title and the company they work for. And so it's easy to kind of filter based upon those things. And I can directly communicate with those customers and learn more about them and prospect and that kind of thing. If you're catering towards a younger consumer, let's say 25 to like late 30s, early 40s, you might be using Instagram, right? Which tends to have a younger age demographic. If it's a little bit older, you might translate to Facebook. If it's like Gen Z, then you're probably going TikTok. And so that's a very simple way to look at the platforms in terms of marketing. Obviously, you want to put a little bit more thought into it. But in terms of a starting point, because there are so many options, it's really good to start with what's going to get me the most return on my time invested. And so to start, having a little bit of an understanding of your customer, being able to target that specific platform is a good way to go. And then as you continue to grow your business, kind of looking for other opportunities to reach out and access new customers. And maybe that is migrating to new platforms and integrating that into your collective marketing strategy. And we'll talk about that a little bit later when we get into talking about building kind of an omni-channel marketing and kind of what that entails. All right. Thanks for watching. Take care.